And the presentation is on Al Jazeera's involvement in Iraq. Thank you, Stefan.
Dear Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it's a real honour for me to speak on behalf of our chairman, Mr. Baydak Al-Jazeeri, and for the chairman of Jawar Al-Khaleej shipping company. Jawar Al-Khaleej is a truly Iraqi-based company and has been operating in Iraq, supporting the offshore oil and gas industry since 1998. And unfortunately, as was mentioned, Mr. Baydak is unable to attend. He was here earlier today, but unfortunately had to leave to fulfill other commitments. Now, when discussing the petroleum supply chain in Iraq, it's really impossible to deny the importance of the southern oil fields, the pipeline infrastructure, and ultimately the export facilities at Abu and Khaleej. With more than 95% of Iraq's GDP depending on oil exports, the southern export route takes over well over 90% of that share. The strategic importance of these export facilities is enormous. As everybody realizes, it's been mentioned several times over the course of the day, and probably will remain so as well in the years to come, especially given the difficulties in the north of the country. Plans to develop new pipelines, like for example the one going to Jordan, are becoming more and more difficult to realize. However, this realization is nothing new. Iraq and L.L.C in particular started investing heavily in these new facilities. To date, the nameplate export capacity of the South is close to 6 million barrels per day. The challenge will be how to get to that number, because only less than half of that nameplate capacity is currently in use. Today I would like actually to focus on these positive developments, which really started in 2008. Iraq had set itself in a very ambitious goal to export up to 9 million barrels per day. Truly ambitious goal, which will make it the second largest exporter of oil, together with Saudi Arabia, leaving the third one well like 5 to 6 million barrels per day behind. So let's focus on these positive developments which have happened so far and are still planned. Investments which involve billions of dollars have and will be spent really in three categories. First of all, regarding operational efficiencies. It's oftentimes the category that's overlooked because everybody likes to talk about the billions of dollars, but oftentimes you will, as I will show you in the next slide, improvements in operational efficiency in the actual operation can result in very significant increases in output. Then it's about the marginal investments, and securing the 3 million barrels per day is of paramount importance. If something happens to that network, it will have a much greater impact than any of the investments that will come in the medium to long term. And then thirdly, it's the expansionary investments, the large billion-dollar investments that everybody's been talking about, and I'll touch upon those briefly just to illustrate what are the major investments related with the offshore terminal at Khaleej and Abbott from Al-Faw Island. One example of the operational efficiencies. The southern export terminals are really very vulnerable to adverse weather conditions, especially the periods from December to February, when really the Shamal storms develop. Right? These storms typically result in 2 or 3 days of non-operations, and they typically also come back 2 or 3 times that month. In the past, the tugs used to assist the tankers for berthing were, on average, 4,000 to 5,000 horsepower tugs. Actually, today, Jawar Al-Khaleej deploys a fleet of 4 tugs, one of which is 8,000 horsepower. They all remain in the area when bad weather hits. In the past, these tugs had to go back and go for shelter. It's a 16-hour sail one way. 16 hours back when the weather dies down, a lot of time lost. Our tugs are in the area, they stay there even when bad weather hits, so as soon as the weather dies down, they can start working again. Just to put that in perspective, a 1 hour of additional capacity of one berth at Abbott, or 1 hour of capacity of one of the SPMs that was referred to this morning, represents about 30,000 to 35,000 barrels exported. That's 1 hour. If you just take $65, I just heard it's on average about $50, but just take it 50, so it's about $2 million of revenues per day that you would increase. On a yearly basis, that's 800 million, just 1 hour. So you can imagine what the increase does of having a large tug there that actually doesn't need to sail back in for 16 hours and then start and only be able to start then. That's a 16-hour gain. During the months of the severe weather, like for example in February, at the end of February, over 30 tankers were waiting to be loaded in March. And actually we'll have our new vessel. You can see the model in our booth as well. It's a new vessel, brand new, a diamond tug. It's the largest tug in its series, an ASD tug, which is going to be delivered at the end of July to assist their 8,000 horsepower tug. So that's further going to assist the already 8,000 horsepower tug that's there. Another example of such an operational efficiency is really the maintenance of the existing pipelines on shore. Just like in a human body, pipelines are like the arteries of the system from the point of production to the ultimate export facility. However, as you all know, pipelines are made of steel. And we all know that steel rusts. So our sister company of Jawar Khaleej, Khaleej, is really the expert in this. They are really the doctor to the pipeline system. Just for example, if you would ask anti-cholesterol pills to your doctor, they do the same thing. They diagnose your blood first, and then they would prescribe the right anti-cholesterol pills. Well, Khaleej does exactly the same. They inject chemicals, they test the quality, the inside quality of the pipeline, and then determine what needs to be done to increase the throughput and also to take anti-corrosive measures. Again, increasing and also safeguarding the throughput of the current systems in place. So ultimately that's really divided into two parts. One is flow assurance, not only assurance but also increasing the flow in the existing pipelines, but also the asset integrity as well from the outside and the inside. So let's move on to the next level of investments, the marginal investments in the existing infrastructure. Just an example of those as well. In 2011, the SOC decided to make a major investment again in the Abbott and KO terminals. And this is actually a picture of one of our vessels, the Norma 1, operating in this project, which was the removal of all the debris after 20, 30 years of war around the terminals in a 100-meter diameter around the terminals of Abbott and KO. So Jawar Khaleej, together with Switzer, part of the Maersk Group, performed this project, and we removed over 450 pieces of debris, including 5 vessels. One was laying on a live pipeline. Now, why was this project important? It was very important because it increases the maneuverability of the tankers berthing at the terminals. Again, increasing the potential output of the country. This project was actually one of the few projects for the SOC that was done within budget, zero LOI, and on time. Another example of such a marginal investment again involves our sister company, Khaleej. It's the construction of pipelines from smaller fields into the main station. Excuse me. This project involved a 20-inch pipeline within the Nar Omar field, and also includes a crossing over to Shatt al-Arab. Pipeline will also be equipped, and this is also an important part in terms of the security part and the assurance that this pipeline will continue to be operated into the future. It's equipped with inspection and security technology, including fiber optic cables and cameras and central control rooms, just to make sure that whatever is installed, what all the investments are that are being made in the infrastructure, they are well maintained and they are used for the future as well. Finally, there's the expansionary investments. As I said, a lot of talk about the expansionary investments. not so much necessarily about what an operational investment can do. But of course, these are going to be important to bring it up from today's level to a certain level higher, but then again to make a step change into the future. It's also been mentioned today, the tank farms, the expansion there. Currently, there's about 6 days of storage. That is going to have to be increased significantly to ensure that there is a buffer for those times when bad weather hits. Because ultimately, if the buffer runs out, then it might actually halt production at the start. 2 additional 40-inch pipelines, 2 new ones were already installed as part of the phase 1 and 2 investments, but 2 new ones are in the planning. Pumping stations as well. The nameplate capacity, as was mentioned earlier as well, of an SPM, for example, is between 850,000 and 900,000 barrels per day. However, pressure now only allows for maximum half of that. So if these pumping stations are installed, then you can get the next step in getting up to the maximum nameplate capacity of the facilities which are already installed. Of course, we've just heard about how challenging it is to make the budget deficit work. The main problem for this, or the main challenge, will be the financing of it all. So all in all, today I really wanted to illustrate a little bit more that significant efforts have already been undertaken since 2008 by the Ministry of Oil, by the SOC and the Iraqi government, which resulted in what is already installed today. It will definitely be a significant challenge to reach the 9 million barrels per day, and maybe it will not be according to the deadlines which were set a couple of years ago. But I think everybody in the room agrees that at some point it will happen. But I'd just like to finish the presentation with a famous quote of a favorite scientist of mine, Einstein, who has said, you know, in the middle of difficulty lies opportunity. And I guess that's also the reason why we're all here. We see definitely the difficulties. We've talked a lot about the difficulties. Even solutions have been talked about, but we definitely see the opportunity coming. And we at Jawar Khaleej will definitely be proud to help Iraq and the people to build on this future success and realize the opportunities that lay ahead. Thank you very much.
I really think that has used up all our time, so if you have any burning questions, if you can try and sit next to the speakers at the network garlic dinner, I think that's probably going to be your best bet. I'd just like to, we really don't have any time, I'm afraid we're going to have to close. Just like to thank you all.